Techies, welcome to our YouTube channel Local Techies. You're watching Performance Testing Series video number 3 by me, Sneha Bellala. What are we going to discuss in this video is why do we do an application recording, the precautions to be taken before recording, Vugen Introduction. I'm just going to show you the layout, how the UI looks in a Vugen. We are not going to go too deep into the Vugen UI now. I will be explaining it in my further videos as and when the situation demands. Next, we will see the recording options. I'm not going to give a high overview. We are going to see this recording options a little deeper. Let's start. First, why do we do an application recording? Because it is simply not easy to just write the code of a script. Why? In recording, what will be captured exactly in our scripts is all the end user actions upon a business application will be captured in our recording. That can be as simple as a mouse click to selecting a text box or entering a value in a text box or selecting a radio button, a checkbox. So all the browser's activity which is performed by our end user will be captured, and how he navigates between the pages. So everything is captured in our recording. It is not simply easy to write the code. Next, to exact emulation of our user behavior. Our user when an application Next, to exactly emulate our user behavior in our application. The users on our application can vary from novice user to expert user. So to capture the exact behavior of that users, we need to do a record and replay. Next, when you do a record and replay, it will be easy to customize. Here, with the easy customization, you can emulate the different types of user behavior and the different types of scenarios, and you can also simulate a real world scenario when you are doing a performance testing. That is why we do a record and replay instead of just manually writing a Vugen scripting. Now let us see what are the precautions or cautions that are to be taken when you are going to record a script. First and foremost, you need to understand the business flow. All and each and every business flow in an application will not be considered to the performance testing. Performance tests are only done for business critical scenarios and the scenario of the business flows which consumes the maximum resources on such. And you need to understand these business flows from end to end, how the workflow happens from the start point to the end point. And you also need to understand the underlying architecture of our application. This is also important because when you encounter an error or issue in your recording, you must be able to exactly pinpoint why that particular error has occurred. And once you understand the application architecture, it will be easy to debug also and to pinpoint any bottlenecks. And next would be try it yourself. When you're about to record any business flow, it is better you once try it yourself manually in the application so that you would understand how the business flows or how the user will interact with the application. Next, test data. Test data is highly crucial for any sort of testing. Sometimes you need to even keep in mind the data privacy issues that may occur when handling with test data. So you must be ready and prepared with the test data which might sometimes require masking, etc. So test data, you must be prepared and be ready. Next criteria is prerequisites. You need to understand the application prerequisites about whatever about browser configuration, like what type of browsers it's going to support, the versions of browser it supports. Next, what is the behavior of the cache and cookies in your application, and what are is there any prerequisite that is applicable for our application to work. This will also include your environment readiness. The next will be patient. Be patient while you're recording your application. Let all the resources on your browser application load before you move to the next step, because that is when all the events or all the resources from your page will be loaded and captured properly. So now let us move on to our Vugen introduction. Now I am launching the Vugen. So this is the Vugen start screen. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to open a new script. The shortcut would be Control N, or you can see here on the menu bar, File, New Script and Solution. The shortcut is Control N. You can open a new script from here, or here you can see a plus icon, right? When you click on this, a new script will be opened. First, you need to select the protocol of whatever script you are going to record. Here I am just going to select a single protocol and web HTTP HTML script. Be sure to select a single protocol when you are going to record with only one protocol. And if your application is built on different technologies, then you can use a multiple protocol. For example, if it is built on Oracle Forms, you can use Oracle NCA with web HTTP HTML. That is because if your login transaction part is in a web and then your application moves to Oracle Forms. So in such way, if you want to capture the business flow which involves multiple technologies, that is when you use multiple protocol. But right now I'm just going to click on single protocol and web HTTP HTML. So by default, the protocol selected would be given as a name. So I'm going to enter the name as demo, recording option demo 1, and I'm just going to save the script in your any location, whatever you want. By default it will be saved in Vugen scripts. I'm just going to leave it like that. And next you need to give your solution name and your solution target. This both options are optional. I'm not going to create any solution, so I'm going to just click on create button here. And so this is going to open my Vugen script. So here my Vugen script with the name recording option demo 1 has been opened. Here you can see I have my file menu, my menu bar, and here I do have some options here. And on my left side you see something called Solution Explorer, where you see actions, vUser init, action, vUser end, some extra files, global, runtime settings, parameters, some recording report, replay summary. We will look into all these options once we do an application recording, and once we are going to come here back and we will see all this. But right now in this class I'm just going to cover the recording options. For the recording options, you can open it by clicking on this record option here on the file menu, and then here you can see recording options. So you can open it by clicking on this, or the shortcut would be Control F7. If you don't want that, here on the toolbar you can see the circle icon. Here you can see once I move the mouse over that icon, it shows record Control+R, right? So once you click that, the restart recording pop-up appears, and here on the left side corner at the bottom you can see recording options. So you can open it even from here. Else, beside the circle icon you have another square with a circle, that is also a recording. Open the record dialog box, so you can even click that to open the recording options. So now my recording options have been opened. Now let us see each one of them in detail. I'm going to cover most of this in today's class. The remaining will be covered in my next demo. So the first option is under general, I have recording. So these general, most of the options will be similar for different protocols, but each of the recording options does vary depending upon the protocol you select. Under general recording, my first option would be either to select the HTML based script or a URL based script. So what is the difference between my HTML and URL based script? So in a HTML based recording, it is also called as a context sensitive, or you can say it a context based recording. In this mode, each user action is recorded as a separate request. For example, when a user performs an action, say a login, then a separate login request is created. The advantage of the HTML based recording is that the scripts are smaller and simple, and they do not require much of the customization, etc. On the flip side, the maintenance of these scripts may be difficult because, as I said, this is a context-based or context-sensitive. So any UI change would impact this script and it may lead to errors on replay. So generally this HTML-based recording is recommended for browser-based applications. Next is my URL-based application. You just need to click on the radio button to select the options. So for the URL based recording, it is a context insensitive or contextless recording. In this mode of recording, each request to the server which is initiated by the user is recorded as a separate request with the URL. For example, let us say the main login itself on the HTML page. So all the HTML pages and non-HTML resources on a particular page like images, JavaScript, CSS files, applets, etc. are downloaded. And for each, a separate request will be generated. Generally, URL-based scripts are lengthy, but they are easy to maintain. And since they are contextless, any changes on UI will not have much impact on your script. So URL-based script will generally be recommended for a non-browser-based application. Now let us see, here you can see something called advanced, right? So let me click back the HTML-based advanced. Here you can see this button, HTML advanced. What is this? So once when we click this, the advanced HTML box opens. So here we do have several options. Let's see what are they. So first, when in this HTML based script, many web pages, or like most of the web pages, they do contain non-HTML elements. Like I said previously, it can be applets, XML, ActiveX elements, or a JavaScript or a CSS file. All these non-HTML elements usually contain or retrieve their own resources. So you can, using these options which is displayed in this advanced HTML pop-up, you can control how Vugen records these non-HTML generated elements. So first one, let us see this non-HTML generated elements. So once when I say record with current script, it does not generate a new function for all these non-HTML generated resources. It lists all the non-HTML content as arguments under relevant functions, say like web URL, web link, or web submit data. So under an extra res function attribute, all the non-HTML resources are embedded. So if you next select the second option, record in separate steps or using concurrent groups, then it creates a new function for each one of the non-HTML generated resources and does not include them as items in the page functions. And this all web URL functions are placed in concurrent groups. So it will be embedded in a web concurrent start function, and it will be and that particular group will end with a web concurrent end function. And when you select do not record, then it does not record any non-HTML resources on that page. And here on the top you see the script type, right? So what does the script type do? The first radio button is selected by default. So the first action is, first script type is a script describing user actions. So what does this does is it generates functions that corresponds directly to the user action the user action which is taken. It creates a URL or a link or image or a form submission, corresponding functions to whatever the user does, and the resulting script is very intuitive and resembles a context-sensitive recording. When I select the second option, a script containing explicit URLs only, then it records all links, images, URLs such as web URL statement, or in the case of forms, a web submit data. It does not generate web link, web image, or web submit form functions. Like here you can see, the resulting script is less intuitive, and this mode is useful for instances where many links within your site have the same link text. If you record the site using the first option, it records an ordinal or an instant for that link. But if you record using the second option, each link is listed by this URL. This facilitates easy way to parameterize or correlate. So now let us move on to our URL advanced. So I'm just selecting URL based script and I'm clicking on this URL advanced. So it just has two options. One, to create concurrent group for resources, or use custom web request use web custom request only. And if you can note, this is a checkbox, so you can select both the options also. So when you select the first checkbox, what it does is it records the resource in concurrent group, like previously what we saw in HTML advanced option. The resources are grouped between web concurrent start and web concurrent end, and it is listed as a web URL separate request. But if you do this web custom only, it records only this web custom request. Like this option will record all HTTP requests as custom HTTP requests, and it will disregard their context. So I'm just setting it up of use defaults, and I'm closing this. So now by default option will be HTML based scripting. I'm just selecting it back. And now let us move on to the next option. Under recording you have script. Here you will have a drop down from which you can select the scripting language. If you are comfortable with the C language script, by default that is selected, you can leave it as it is. Or if you're comfortable with a JavaScript, you can select the option JavaScript. And let us see some of the scripting options that has been given below. So most of these are self-explanatory. Like if you see, first one is close all AUT processes while recording stop. This is nothing but it automatically closes the application under test process when your Vugen stops recording, and generate fixed think time after end transaction. This will generate a fixed think time once your transaction is ended. So when you enable this option, you can specify a value for the think time. So by default it is 3 and it is not enabled. To enable it, you have to check this checkbox. And next we can see like generate recorded log events. So this generates a log for all events that took place during the recording. And then we will see the generate think time greater than threshold. So uses a threshold value for think time. If the recorded think time is less than the threshold, the Vugen will not generate any think time statement. You can also specify a threshold value. The default value is 3. If the think time is less than 3 seconds, Vugen will not generate any think time statements. If you disable this option, Vugen will not generate any think time at all when you are recording your script. So by default it is 3. You can edit it by just double click on the value parameter here and you can edit it. Next, the other interesting option here is maximum number of lines in an action file. So this creates a new file if the number of lines in the action exceeds the specified threshold. Here the default threshold is 60,000 lines. So when this option is enabled, a new action file is generated for if the lines in our particular action file is exceeding 60,000 lines. So next, warn me if the application is being recorded encounters an error. Selecting this option, it will enable Vugen to prompt you to cancel the recording if the recorded application crashes, or if there are no events being recorded for 3 minutes. If you choose to cancel the recording, no script will be generated. In proxy mode of recording, if the recorded application crashes, there is no error message. Instead, a no event error is displayed after 3 minutes. So by default this is enabled. And please note, this option is available only for web HTTP HTML. We use scripts only. So now let's move on to the protocols. So it displays the protocol which is being currently selected for the script. In case here I have selected a single protocol and web HTTP HTML, that's why only that option is being displayed. In case you have selected multiple protocols, here you will have an option to check the desired protocol. Next, moving on to code generation. Here you can see there are two different options, correlation scan and async scan. So what does this correlation scan option do is it instructs the Vugen to analyze the user script to locate any dynamic values that may need to be correlated. So the dynamic value, for example, it can be a session ID, which is not going to be the same for different user sessions. So this scan is performed after a new script is recorded and after an existing script is regenerated. Now my async scan It instructs the Vugen to analyze the user script to locate asynchronous communication. This scan is performed after a new script is generated or like after an existing script is regenerated. And here you have even async options which you can select, and all these are self-explanatory. So now let me move on to the next section, correlation. Under correlations I have first one is the configuration. So this is a bit important. Let us see this. So first option is here is, you can see it is the rule scan. So what does it do? So it's all these are like it all these options under scan for correlation applying, it just scans. It is upon the different types of scan that we can enable in our Vugen. So first one is a rule scan. By applying these rules, apply correlation rules when you are performing a correlation scan. So if you check this box, which is a subset of this rules scan, it will the design studio will automatically correlate the dynamic values which are identified in our rules scan. The next option is the record scan. It scans for the correlation based on the record based engine. And replay scan, it scans for correlation with the replay based engine. Here you can see the record scan configuration, which is there. Like I will just select this drop down so that you will see the option. So this is a record scan configuration. The heuristic level, here you can see there are 3 different levels which are there. So it enables you to set the filter level that controls the amount of correlation results that can be written. The higher the filter level, the shorter the scan will take to run time. I mean, the shorter the scan will take to run. By default it is medium. Similarly, the replay scan, it will it uses the replay engine, and here you can use 2 different ways to scan for differences between the snapshot. One is the HTML comparison and next is the text comparison. So this is nothing but a comparison method. So HTML comparisons, it displays the difference in the HTML code only, and text comparison, it displays all the text, HTML and binary differences. Now let's move on to this record and replay scan configuration. Here it's nothing but it selects the API used for correlation. So in case if it does an automatic correlation, either it should use the WebRec save parameter EX function to correlate or the regular expression function to correlate. So that this option decides that. And next, to exclude any string, enables you to enter the string values that should be it enables you to enter the strings that should be ignored by the record or the replay scan. If you need to ignore any string, then here is where you need to give it. Here you can add it by clicking on this plus icon, or delete it or remove it by clicking on this cross mark. And here it provides the different values. So for if the string if the dynamic value captured should be ignored in case if it is shorter than this 4. So these value options help you to set a threshold. And here if the dynamic string is greater than 10 KB, then it will provide you a warning message if you select this option. So these are the different options that are available in this configuration option. Now let us move on to the next, rules. Here this rules, here in this dialog box, it enables you to manage the correlation rules that automatically correlate the dynamic values during your code generation. You can add a new rule, or you can even delete a new application. You can also add, delete, import, export text, these correlation rules with these options available. Like here you can see there are several buttons. So using these buttons you can add or import or import any existing rule, or you can export the existing rules which you will be selecting here. Next, let us move on to the one of the most important HTTP properties, that is advanced. Here you can see there are different options. Like under preference you have some options, under proxy recording settings, under recording schemes. So let us see what it is for each one. Now first I will select this recording schemes. I'll first go through these. Under recording schemes you see you have 3 buttons. One is the headers. So what does this do? It enables you to automatically send additional HTTP headers with every HTTP request that is submitted in the servers. You can select or unselect any option here, any type of header that you want to record in your application. You can select the headers which you can select to record a specific headers, or you can select to exclude the specific headers from it, or you can even select to do not record the headers itself. And the next option would be the content types. So what it does is it enables you to filter the content types for your recorded script. You can specify the type of the content that you want to record or exclude from your script. Here, if you want to add it, first you need to select the content type list, and then based on your selection, these options will be enabled to select or deselect the content types you want to record. And the next option available is the non-resources. So when you record a script, Vugen indicates whether or not it will retrieve the resource displayed during the replay, and this resource attribute in the web URL function. If the resource attribute is set to 0, the resource retrieved is retrieved during our script execution. If the resource attribute is set to 1, then it skips the resource type. So you can exclude specific content types from being handled as resource. For example, you can indicate Vugen that a GIF type of resource should not be handled as a resource, and therefore be downloaded unconditionally. So now let us see the different options here under preference. So here you can see read the context for each action. So what it does is it resets all the HTTP context between actions. Resetting context, it allows the user to more accurately emulate a new user beginning a browser by beginning a new browser session. This option resets the HTML context so that a contextless function is always recorded in the beginning of the action. It also clears the cache and resets the username and passwords, and this option is available only for web and Oracle NCA protocols. And next, save the snapshot resource locally. It saves a local copy of snapshot resources during a record and replay, thereby creating snapshots more accurately, and it displays them quickly also. Next, generate webRec functions for page titles. It is nothing but it generates this web function for HTML page titles, and nothing but it adds a string webRec find. This is used for text checks in your script, and if you need to generate even for subframes within the frame, you can select the checkbox below, which will which will even generate the webRec find function even for the subframes, and this is also available only for web and Oracle NCA protocol. And next, add comment to script HTTP errors while recording. It will add a comment to each script. It will add the comment to the script for each HTTP request error. Say like if the server response is 400 or greater, then it will add the comment in our script. Next, let us see the support car set. It has two car sets, UFT8 and UCJP. So it is nothing but it enables the support for this UTF-8 encoding, and this will instruct Vugen to convert the non-ASCII, the ASCII UTF-8 characters to encoding of your local machine in order to display them properly in Vugen. You should enable this option only on non-English UTF-8 encoded pages, and the recorded site's language must match the operating system language. You cannot record non-English web pages with different encodings. For example, this UTF-8 together with ISO 88591 or Shift JIS within the same script. So that one. So for EUCJP, that is a recent support which is given for Japanese characters. So next, this option, interesting option, parameterize service name. So Vugen identifies service name and IP addresses when you generate the Vugen script, and when this option is enabled, Vugen replaces the identified server names or IP addresses and it converts them into parameters. So parameterizing server names or IP addresses when you run the Vugen, it helps us if you want to run the same script for different environments. You can just need to simply change the server name and IP address in your parameter file, and it immediately you can replay your script in your other environment. So that is the options, and here you have another option too. Replace password with masked parameters. So what it does is it masks your passwords that is being that will be generated. So when you are recording an application, when you provide a password, so it replaces your actual password with a masked string. And similarly, you have another option like generate steps with missing responses. So what does this option does is it generates steps for HTTP requests that are missing the server response. So whenever you're missing a server response, it will generate a HTTP request. And next, generate API call for specific HTTP codes. So in case if I select this option, and I can give any HTTP code with starting from 200, 300 or 302. So when you say like 302, a redirection is happening on your application. So in such cases, it will generate specific API calls. So it will capture that API call specific. So in that cases, you need to check on these options. So I'm now clicking on use defaults. So now these proxy recording settings, this is one of the very important option. So the first option is use LoadRunner proxy to record a local application. This provides an alternative way to record if the standard Vugen recording mechanism is not compatible with your application, and this applies when you have selected to record a web browser or Windows application, and this needs to be unchecked immediately after you record. And if you are using a LoadRunner proxy to record a local application, the application and the LoadRunner Vugen, wherever you are recording, it should be on the same network. This I will include in a separate video again. So the next option is use streaming mode when recording with the LoadRunner proxy. So the streaming mode enables HTTP data portions received from the server to be forwarded to the application without buffering. This allows you to record asynchronous push communication. So when this option is enabled, the remote recording toolbar will be disabled. So that is a point to note. So let's move on to the most important topic in recording options under network, that is mapping and filtering. This is an extensive topic, and here this is where you specify Vugen to filter some HTTP traffic, or if you want to only record a traffic from particular port and all that. So this recording option I will cover in detail in our next video. Now let us move on to the data format extension. Under data format extension, you have chain configuration or code and code generation. So what is this data format extension? So this data format extension, or DFE, this support enables easier scripting of web applications by providing the ability to decode and encode formatted data that is exchanged between the client and server. This enables easy correlation and parameterization of the generated user scripts. And this option, data format extension, it applies to web HTTP HTML script and SAP web user scripts, and under Flex for web HTTP HTML steps only. So when you record a user script, and Vugen records the HTTP request and response that are passed between your client and web server, and the data in these HTTP request and response is often encoded. For example, some data may be in a binary format. So this encoded data may be in the HTTP query, string, headers, bodies, or cookies, wherever it can be. So when the encoded data is included in your VS script, the script will contain a data which will be difficult to decipher, right? So this also makes it difficult to identify the text strings that will be used for parameterization or correlation, and it will also be difficult to understand. So when this DFE is applied to a user script, the DFE modifies the script and replaces the encoded data with decoded data. So each time the script is generated, say after recording or after regenerating it, the DFEs are applied to decode the data and produce a script that will be easy to understand and it will be easy to work with. And each time the script is run, the DFEs are reapplied to re-encode and decode the decoded data to produce the HTTP messages with encoded data in a format that will be expected by the server. So these are by default, nothing is present here, and these DFA options we will not be even dealing much. So in case you want a chain of encoding or decoding to happen, you just need to click on this plus icon and you need to add the chain. Or if you want to remove it, you can click on the cross mark and move it up and down. So these are the different options available. And here, if you need to import or export any formatted data, it can be in a body, header, cookies, or query string like previously discussed. So you can apply it here. So these are the recording options which are available for the web HTTP HTML script. So I will see you in the next class. So in my coming class, we will see the recording options part 2. I will in detail discuss this mapping and filtering options present under network, and I will also show you how to record a application, a sample recording. We will see that in our next class.
Thank you for watching this video. Do like, share, comment and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on the Instagram for more exciting stuff and have fun with the quizzes there. Bye-bye.